Morning everybody, happy Monday, and oh my god, do you see this? I'm not sitting on a wooden stool anymore. I have a bed, sofa. So as you know, half my furniture was arriving yesterday, and it did. The other half is arriving on Friday. I forgot what it feels like to sit comfortably. So cheers to another week of daily language diary videos and another amazing week of language learning. Lily Bad Habit writes in, how do you combat sounds you just can't seem to physically make? Are there any sounds you struggle with? I have never been able to roll my R's, but it seems pretty crucial in many languages. I've watched so many videos, had friends try to teach me, etc., to no avail. I have thought about just learning languages where rolled R's are essential and hoping it would just click eventually, but what if it never does? I learned the French R through lots of repetition and listening, but that rolled R has me stumped. Any thoughts? Is it just a case of practicing 5,000 times? Thanks. Thank you for this question, Lily. I have to say this is quite a hard one, but I think this is something that lots of people struggle with, and it is a really important question. So I think this could be a really nice candidate for a video where I could actually spend some time doing research and talking to experts and making a really nice sort of edited video. But for today, I'm going to share with you my own experiences struggling to make certain sounds in different languages, and also the experiences I had trying to teach or help other students I had overcome those same difficulties. So I did a bit of quick reading, and according to Science Focus by the BBC, in one of their articles, they say that it's a misconception that some people are destined to never roll their R's. In countries with R-rolling languages, many people learn the skill in childhood. Spanish is an example of one such language. Yet those yet to master the skill need only to practice. So first of all, I will tell you that I've definitely had plenty of struggles myself pronouncing certain sounds in different languages. The rolled R is something I've been able to do since I was a kid, but I remember I used to do a lot of these like obnoxious impressions of cartoon characters and different people when I was a kid, and so I think I got lots of practice with that particular sound. However, the first one that I remember being very difficult for me was actually the French R. I had a lot of trouble with that, and I remember just practicing over and over and over again. I remember that after a certain amount of time, I started to kind of get it, but it was like 1 in every 3 times I would get it right, and then like the other 2 times I would just choke on the back of my tongue like just like couldn't do it. But then over time, I just remember I would repeat everything out loud. So as I was doing, whether it was like Pimsleur or Michelle Thomas or Babel or any of these things, every single chance I got, I would just say it out loud. Now later on, funnily enough, it was actually my ability to say the French R correctly that got me lots of compliments from native speakers. I remember one time very distinctly, I was in Brussels and I was staying with some friends there. We were having a conversation with some wine. Actually, it was beer. And I remember one of them said that, you know, one of the more impressive things about your French, it's that you know how to do the R, you know how to merci. And I remember being really proud of myself because I had a lot of trouble with that when I was first learning. I remember when I was learning Dutch and I had a lot of trouble to do like the goeiemorgen, hoe gaat het met jou? Like this, right? Hoe gaat het met jou? Goeiemorgen. By the way, I haven't spoken Dutch in like 3 or 4 years, so that may not be terribly good. Recently in Chinese, this is a little bit different, but I remember when I was first learning Chinese and I would say things like, wohe. It would sound very much like just the English like have, huh. But then over time, as I was constantly repeating and listening to things, I noticed that a lot of native speakers, a lot of the time, it's really more of a sort of 我想喝, there's like 喝, right? And it took me quite a while. I remember for a little bit, I often over-exaggerate it in the beginning, and I ended up like 我喝, goeiemorgen, 我想喝. And then after I can really sort of exaggerate it, I sort of dial it back. So maybe with like merci, it'd be kind of really like but then you gotta dial it back, merci, 我想喝. Also in Mandarin Chinese, there's this distinction between like ch and then like chu, this u sound, right? Or nu har, this sort of like u. That was really difficult for me as well. In Russian, I remember being completely perplexed by the sort of u sound, right? Like blini, mu. And in this case, there was a really cool technique where you'd put like a thing in your mouth. Okay, so those are just some examples of some of the sounds that I have certainly had trouble with. And I do have to say, in all those cases, it was simply a matter of just practicing over and over again. In particular, repeating things out loud. In particular, sort of repeating out loud right after I heard the sound. Over time, I just remember it was very slow and gradual, but it did happen, and I finally got to a place where I felt really comfortable making all those sounds. Okay, so now let's talk about my experiences as I was trying to help people who really had a lot of difficulty to make sounds, including the rolled R. So back when I was teaching and working with students all the time, I did have a number of people who really had difficulty, in particular with the rolled R. And in the end, I actually had various sort of creative ways that I ended up helping people. So one student, this was really interesting. He had trouble with his rolled R's in Spanish. And what I noticed is that the Japanese R, to me, feels very close in terms of the placement of the tongue, but it's sort of like a much lighter version of it because there's not really the trill. You don't actually, you don't roll the R, but your tongue feels like it's in the same place. And somehow that just makes it feel a bit easier for me. And so what I did with this student is I actually started doing Japanese words with him. So we weren't learning Japanese, but we started to do things like arigato, right? Arigato, roku. And what I found was, for whatever reason, it was a lot easier for him to say these sounds in Japanese. And so he had a pretty good like Japanese, like arigato. And then what we did is we sort of said, okay, cool. So take that feeling exactly where your tongue is. We went through the process of like pushing more air and stuff, and surprisingly quickly, he kind of got it and it just clicked. Funnily enough, he actually did end up learning Japanese later because of this sort of introduction that we had, and he really enjoyed it. So I'm not saying that this would work for everybody, but the interesting thing is that I was always able to eventually find like some kind of creative way to help people produce that sound. But at the same time, this is a really difficult one because if someone's really trying hard and you say that you've gone through different videos and you've had friends try to teach you and you still can't make the sounds, I don't ever want to just make someone feel like there's something wrong with you and come on, just practice. I think this is a really valid problem, and it's a difficult thing to overcome. And I think this is actually one of the things that can be most demotivating in a language, because it's easy for me to sit here and say very abstract things like, come on, just like practice and you'll get there. But this is one of those few things where it's like, no, it's a physical barrier. Like you get immediate feedback from your body. Like, nope, I didn't make it. No, didn't do it. So in conclusion, Lily, just based on my own personal experience struggling to produce certain sounds with my mouth and then working with different students and just having conversations with other learners, along with reading that article very briefly this morning, it does seem like you can do it. Like you have the physical apparatus to do it. You just need to develop the coordination and practice, and I think you can get there. I really believe you can do this. Don't give up. So I hope that was helpful, Lily. I know that was mostly anecdotal and my own experiences. I hope it was enjoyable to at least see some of my own struggles with pretty vivid enactments of how they went. And again, I think this is a wonderful opportunity for people in the comments to share your own struggles, your own experiences, and even your own expertise if any of you have expert training in sort of phonology and pronunciation. With that, I wish you all an amazing Monday, and I'll see you back here tomorrow for another daily question.